I knelt in the confession booth, my heart racing and my hands trembling. The small, dim space felt like a prison, and the air was thick with my guilt. Tears streamed down my face as I fought to breathe. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," I whispered, my voice barely audible. But what I really wanted was not just forgiveness. I wanted to unburden my soul. Images of that night with Lucas flooded my mind, each memory sharp and vivid. I could see the way his eyes sparkled when he laughed, the way his touch sent electric shivers down my spine. "Ava, just one drink," he'd said. One drink turned into two, and then we were lost in a whirlwind of passion. I should have stopped it. I should have pushed him away. But I didn't. I let myself get swept away, and now I was drowning in regret. Why did I do it? I thought, my heart pounding in my chest. I loved Ethan. We had built a life together in our cozy little home, filled with laughter and dreams of the future. Yet here I was, in this booth, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The contrast was unbearable. Ethan's warm smile haunted me as I thought of Lucas's fiery gaze. How could I reconcile this chaos in my heart? I clasped my hands together, hoping that somehow I could make sense of it all. What do I do now? I asked myself, my voice trembling. I felt like I was being pulled in two different directions. On one hand, there was Ethan, my loving husband, who trusted me completely. On the other, there was Lucas, whose mere presence ignited something wild within me. How can I choose? I wondered, feeling the weight of my choices pressing down on me. Do you have anything to confess? The priest asked gently, breaking my spiral of thoughts. I hesitated, my heart racing. Could I really share my deepest secret? I've been unfaithful, I finally admitted, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. I betrayed the one I love. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if I had ripped my heart open for all to see. Tell me more, he urged, his voice calm and steady. I closed my eyes, the memories crashing over me like waves. I remembered the way Lucas laughed at my jokes, the way he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. It was just supposed to be fun, just a harmless flirtation, I said, my voice breaking. But it turned into so much more. Why did you let it? He prompted, and I felt anger rise within me. I don't know, I snapped, my voice echoing in the small space. I loved Ethan. I thought I was happy, but then Lucas came along and everything changed. My breath came in ragged gasps as I tried to calm myself. The truth was, I had let my desires take over, and now I was left with this gaping wound in my heart. I thought about Ethan, how he always believed in me, how he looked at me as if I were the only one in the world. The thought of his disappointment made me want to crumble. I don't want to hurt him, I whispered, but I can't keep living this lie. The tears continued to fall, each one a reminder of my choices, my failures. As I knelt there, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe confessing is the first step, I thought. Maybe telling someone will help me understand what I truly want. But the fear loomed over me. What if I lost everything? What if Ethan couldn't forgive me? The questions swirled in my mind like a storm, and I knew the path ahead would be anything but easy. Do you seek forgiveness? The priest asked, and I nodded slowly. Yes, but how can I ever make this right? I replied, my voice barely a whisper. I felt small and lost, trapped between two worlds. The chaos in my heart raged on, but a part of me knew that I had to face the truth, no matter how painful it would be. The office buzzed with energy that Thursday morning, but I was lost in my thoughts. I glanced over at Lucas, who was leaning back in his chair, a smirk on his face as he teased our coworker, Jenna. The way he laughed made my heart flutter. It was a feeling I had tried to ignore, but today, It felt stronger than ever. "Hey, Ava, are you going to just sit there and stare at your screen, or do you want to join the conversation?" Lucas called out, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I felt my cheeks heat up. "I was just focusing on my work," I replied, trying to sound casual. But inside, my heart raced. Just the sound of his voice sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach. "Come on, it's just a little banter. Lighten up," he encouraged, his tone playful. I couldn't help but smile. There was an undeniable chemistry between us, a spark that made my pulse quicken and my mind race. All right, I'm coming," I said, standing up and walking over to their desk. As I joined in on their playful teasing, I tried to push away the nagging feeling of guilt that crept in. After all, I was married to Ethan, the kindest man I knew. As the days went by, I found myself looking forward to our encounters. Our flirty banter became a daily ritual. "You know, Ava, you should really loosen up," Lucas said one afternoon, leaning closer as he spoke. "You're too serious all the time." "Easy for you to say," I replied, laughing softly. "You don't have a husband waiting at home." "Isn't that the point? To have some fun?" he shot back, a playful glint in his eyes. I could feel the tension crackle in the air as I met his gaze. It was thrilling, yet terrifying. But with every moment we shared, the weight of my internal conflict grew heavier. I found myself questioning my happiness with Ethan. Was I truly fulfilled in my marriage? Or was I just going through the motions? Lucas's presence brought out a part of me that I had long ignored, a part that craved excitement and passion. One evening, while we were wrapping up a project together, I almost confessed my feelings. "Lucas, I started, but the words caught in my throat. I couldn't bring myself to say what was on my mind. Instead, I looked away, afraid of the consequences. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. "You seem distant." "I'm fine, just tired," I lied, forcing a smile. But I knew it was more than that. The truth was, I was scared. Scared of what this attraction meant for my life, for my marriage. The following week, I found myself alone in the break room with Lucas. The air was thick with unspoken words. I could feel the tension building, and then it happened. He stepped closer, his voice low and inviting. "Ava, I can feel there's something more between us. Can't you?" My heart raced. I wanted to deny it, to push him away, but the pull was too strong. "I shouldn't be feeling this way," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Why not? It's just feelings. We can't help who we're drawn to," he said, his gaze intense. "But what are we going to do about it?" I swallowed hard. My heart was pounding in my chest, and every fiber of my being screamed at me to walk away. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in closer, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. I lay in bed beside Ethan, who was fast asleep, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. How did I get here? How had I let this happen? The pivotal moment came unexpectedly. One late night at the office, Lucas and I were the last two working. Tired and vulnerable, we shared stories, our laughter filling the empty room. The air shifted, and suddenly, I was kissing him, succumbing to the sweet temptation that had been building for weeks. As I pulled away, reality hit me like a cold wave. "What have I done?" I gasped, my breath coming in quick bursts. The weight of my actions crashed over me, leaving me breathless. Lucas looked at me, a mix of regret and desire in his eyes. "Ava, No!" I interrupted, panic rising in my chest. "I can't believe this happened. I need to go home." I stumbled back, my heart pounding, knowing that I had crossed a line from which there was no return. As I drove home, tears streamed down my face. The thrill had quickly turned into a heavy burden. I had betrayed Ethan, and I knew I would have to face the consequences of my actions. Every day felt like I was wearing a mask, smiling and laughing with Ethan, while my heart was a storm of guilt. He had no idea what I was carrying inside me. I would watch him as he made breakfast, his back to me, completely unaware of the weight pressing down on my chest. It was hard to breathe sometimes, like I was drowning in my own lies. "Good morning, Ava," he called cheerfully, turning to face me with a bright smile. "I made your favorite, pancakes?" "Thanks, Ethan. They look amazing," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. As we sat at the table, I tried to focus on the fluffy pancakes in front of me, but my mind drifted back to Lucas. I could still feel the warmth of his touch, the way his eyes sparkled with mischief. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. This was not how I wanted to feel. "Is everything okay?" Ethan asked, a hint of concern in his voice. "You seem a bit distant today." "I'm fine, just tired," I lied. I couldn't let him see the truth. The guilt was eating me alive, but I needed to keep up the appearance of a happy wife. Later that day, I found myself alone in my car, parked in a quiet spot. The guilt felt like a heavy chain, dragging me down. I pulled out my phone, hesitating for a moment, before I typed a message to Lucas. "We need to talk." It took only seconds for him to respond. "Okay, where?" "My place." I didn't know what I expected from this meeting. I just knew that I had to confront the reality of what we had done. I arrived home, and the moment I stepped inside, the familiar smell of Ethan's cologne hit me. It made my heart ache even more. When Lucas arrived, there was an awkward silence. My heart raced as I opened the door. He stood there, hands in his pockets, looking as conflicted as I felt. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," I replied, stepping aside to let him in. Once inside, the weight of our actions hung in the air like a thick fog. I paced back and forth, avoiding his gaze. "We can't keep doing this," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" Lucas asked, his brow furrowing. "You're the one who wanted to meet." "I know, but I can't just ignore what happened. I can't pretend it was nothing. I have Ethan, and he deserves better than this." The words tumbled out of me, each one laced with remorse. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. "So what? You're just gonna walk away? We had something real, Ava." "Real? Or just a moment of weakness?" I shot back, anger and pain swirling in my chest. "What we did was wrong. I need to think about my marriage, about Ethan." "Ethan trusts you, Ava," Lucas said, his voice low. "And that makes this harder. Every time I see him, I see the betrayal written all over you." I felt my heart shatter at his words. "I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I felt alive with you, but now I feel like I'm dying inside." We stood in silence, the gravity of our situation sinking in. "I don't want to hurt you," Lucas said finally, his voice filled with a mix of sadness and anger. "But you have to decide what you want." "I don't know what I want," I cried, frustration spilling over. "I love Ethan, but I can't ignore what we had. It's tearing me apart." Lucas stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "Then maybe you should tell him the truth. Maybe that's the only way to truly heal." The suggestion hung heavy between us. Could I really confess to Ethan? Would it destroy everything? But deep down, I knew that keeping this secret was only going to hurt us more. As Lucas left, I felt a part of me break. The weight of the decision lay heavy on my shoulders. I had to confront my truth, even if it meant facing the consequences of my actions. The thought of confessing to Ethan grew stronger, whispering to me that honesty might be the only path to healing. I sat on the edge of our bed, my heart pounding in my chest. It felt like the calm before a storm. The decision to confront Ethan loomed over me like a dark cloud. I could no longer hide the truth, not from him and not from myself. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my guilt settle in my stomach. I have to tell him, I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible. As I walked down the hall, the familiar sounds of our home echoed around me. Ethan's laughter, the soft music playing in the background. It all felt so normal, so perfect, yet I knew the truth would shatter this illusion. I found him in the kitchen, pouring himself a cup of coffee. He looked up and smiled, a smile that felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "Hey Ava, want some coffee?" he asked, his eyes bright with warmth. No, I need to talk to you," I said, my voice trembling. Ethan's smile faded, and he set the coffee down. "Okay, what's on your mind?" I swallowed hard. It's important." He walked over to me, concern etched on his face. "You're scaring me, Ava. What's wrong?" I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts. "Ethan, I made a mistake, a big one, and I can't keep it from you any longer." His brows furrowed, and I could see the change in his demeanor. "What do you mean? What kind of mistake?" I took a deep breath, feeling the tears well up in my eyes. I was unfaithful to you. I slept with someone else." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. I could see the shock wash over his face, his eyes widening in disbelief. "What? Who? How could you do this to me?" His voice was strained, filled with hurt. "It was Lucas. I didn't plan for it to happen. I just got caught up in the moment, and I didn't think about the consequences. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I never wanted to hurt you." His expression shifted from shock to heartbreak. "You didn't think? How could you do this? We had everything. I trusted you." I know, I pleaded, tears streaming down my cheeks. "I betrayed that trust, and I hate myself for it. But I need you to hear me out. I love you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." He turned away from me, his hands gripping the edge of the kitchen counter. "Love? How can you say that after what you did? Do you even understand how much this hurts?" I do understand. I feel like I've shattered everything we built together, and I don't know how to fix it. Do you think I can ever look at you the same way again?" He interrupted, his voice rising with emotion. "Can love survive this? Can it really go back to how it was?" I felt a heaviness settle in my chest, and I shook my head. "I don't know, Ethan. I want to believe it can, but I know I've put us in a terrible place. I'm here, ready to face the consequences, whatever they may be. I can't lose you." He turned back to face me, tears glistening in his eyes. "You already have, Ava. You've lost me. I don't know how to move past this." The pain in his voice pierced through me like a dagger. I reached for his hand, desperate to connect, but he pulled away. "Please, just give me some time to think." As he walked away, I felt my heart break all over again. The haunting question lingered in my mind. Can love truly withstand betrayal, or is it forever altered? I stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of our life together, and realized that I had opened a door I might never be able to close again. After that painful confrontation with Ethan, I found myself lost in a haze of confusion and regret. The weight of my choices pressed down on me, and I knew I had to take a step back and figure things out. I needed to understand why I had acted the way I did and what I truly wanted moving forward. I started my journey of self-discovery by taking long walks around the neighborhood. The familiar sights of our quiet suburban life felt different now. The sun shone brightly, but I felt a storm brewing inside me. I would often stop and watch the children play in the park, their laughter echoing in the air. It reminded me of the happiness I once felt with Ethan. One evening, as I sat on a bench, I pulled out my phone and hesitated before texting Ethan. I wanted to share my feelings, but fear held me back. I finally took a deep breath and typed, "Can we talk? I need to be honest with you." The message felt like a small step toward healing, but my heart raced as I pressed send. Ethan replied almost immediately, "Of course. When and where?" I suggested we meet at our favorite coffee shop. It was a place filled with memories, laughter, and love. But now, it felt heavy with the shadows of what I had done. As I arrived, I saw Ethan sitting at a table, his eyes scanning the room. When our gazes met, a wave of guilt washed over me. "Hey," I said softly, as I took a seat across from him. "Hey," he replied, his voice steady but with a hint of sadness. "I got your message." I nodded, unsure of where to begin. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I started, my voice trembling slightly. "I want to understand why I hurt you, why I let myself get lost." Ethan looked down at his coffee, his fingers tapping nervously on the cup. "I've been thinking too," he said slowly. "It's hard for me to forgive you. I still love you, Ava, but I don't know if I can trust you again." I felt my heart sink. "I know I broke that trust. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want to be honest about everything." He looked up, his eyes searching mine. "What do you want, Ava? What do you truly want?" I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "I want to understand myself better. I want us to be okay again. But I need to know if you want that too. I want to fight for us." Ethan's expression softened slightly, but the pain was still there. "It won't be easy, you know. We have a long road ahead of us." "I know," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm willing to try. I want to share my feelings, my fears. I don't want to hide anymore." For a moment, silence hung between us. I could see the conflict in his eyes as he processed my words. "I'm scared, Ava. I don't want to get hurt again." "I'm scared too," I admitted. "But if we don't talk about this, we'll never heal. I want to be open with you about everything." He nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Okay, let's try. But it's going to take time, and we need to be honest with each other." I smiled faintly, feeling a glimmer of hope. "I can do that. I want to be better for you. For us." As we talked, I could feel the barriers between us beginning to crumble, piece by piece. We shared our fears, our dreams, and the mistakes that brought us to this moment. Each word felt like a fragile thread, weaving us back together. But even as we opened up to one another, I knew that trust would take time to rebuild. Each day would be a challenge, but I was ready to face it. I needed to prove to Ethan that I was committed to making things right, that I wanted to restore the love we once had. We left the coffee shop with a sense of uncertainty, but also with a newfound understanding. I could feel the weight of my past actions beginning to lift, even if just a little. We had taken the first step toward healing, and for now, that was enough. Sitting across from Ethan in our living room, the air felt heavy with unspoken words. We had spent weeks trying to find our way back to each other, but every conversation felt like we were walking on eggshells. I looked into his eyes, searching for a sign that he still wanted me, that our love could mend itself. "Ethan," I started, my voice trembling slightly. "I know I hurt you more than I can explain. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not." He nodded slowly, his expression a mix of pain and hope. "I appreciate you saying that, Ava, but it's hard for me. I still feel the weight of your betrayal. It's like a shadow that follows me everywhere." I took a deep breath, feeling the knot in my stomach tighten. "I know it feels that way, and I want to help you see that I'm trying. I want to be open with you about everything." "Then tell me," he urged, leaning forward. "What are you feeling right now?" I hesitated, gathering my thoughts. "I feel lost. I feel guilt for what I did, but I also feel scared. Scared that I messed everything up beyond repair. I paused, looking away as tears threatened to spill. But I want to heal, and I want us to heal. I need to take responsibility for my actions. Ethan's eyes softened. Taking responsibility is a start. But it's not just about saying sorry. It's about showing me you understand why it happened in the first place. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. I know. I got caught up in the excitement and thrill of it all with Lucas. I thought it was harmless fun, but it turned into something much deeper. Something I didn't want it to be. I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I just wish I could trust you again. Trust is everything in a relationship. I want to rebuild that trust, I said, my heart pounding. But I need your help. We need to talk about what we both want moving forward. Can we do that? Ethan looked thoughtful, his gaze drifting to the window. I think we can try. But it's going to take time, Ava. I can't just forget what happened. I don't expect you to forget, I replied quickly. But I hope we can learn from it. Maybe we can find a way to redefine what love means for us now. He turned back to me, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Redefine it? What do you mean? I smiled gently, feeling a spark of connection in the moment. I mean that love isn't just about the good times. It's also about facing the hard times together. It's about honesty and vulnerability. I want to be honest with you about everything, even if it hurts. Ethan seemed to ponder my words. So, you're saying that we can grow from this? That we can come out stronger on the other side? Exactly, I said, my heart racing. We can acknowledge the pain, but also the potential for growth. If we're willing to be open and communicate, I believe we can find our way back to each other. He leaned back in his chair, still deep in thought. It won't be easy, Ava. There will be days when I'll doubt everything. But if we're both committed, maybe we can make it work. I reached out, placing my hand over his. I promise to be here every step of the way. I will show you through my actions that I am serious about making this right. Ethan squeezed my hand gently, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Let's take it one day at a time, then. As we sat in silence, I reflected on our journey. I realized that love is not just a feeling, but a choice. A choice to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to seek redemption together. I knew the road ahead would not be easy, but I was ready to walk it with Ethan, hand in hand, rebuilding trust and love, piece by piece. Share this story if you believe that love can overcome even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about a time when honesty helped mend a relationship in your life, and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories like this one.